Hey everyone, this is Ian O'Byrne. This is a series of interviews that we're conducting with authors from the special themed issue of Tapestry that was recently published. In this issue, we looked at digital literacies and English learners or second language learners. Today, in this interview, we're going to look at a piece that was submitted titled Multiliteracy in 3 English as a Second Language Middle School Classrooms. So we want to get started right away. My name is Ian O'Byrne. I'm an assistant professor at the University of New Haven. Martha, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Martha Castañeda. I'm an associate professor of foreign language and ESL education at Miami University in Ohio.
Very cool. And our guest of honor, Elena, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Elena Andrei, and I'm an assistant professor of literacy education with a focus on English learners at Coastal Carolina University in Conway, South Carolina.
Very cool. Elena, please explain to us or introduce your piece. What did you submit? What was in Tapestry? And then also, what motivated you to write and submit this piece?
Sure. So first I wanted to thank to the anonymous reviewers for my piece, for their feedback, and for making my article an even better one. And I also want to thank you both, Jan and Martha, for putting this theme issue together and for promoting it. So one thing that I've noticed about you two is that you are not only supporting multiliteracy and writing and researching about it, but you're also promoting and using it in all your work, such as these interviews that you guys are doing and are attaching to go with the journal. So I think you guys are not just talking about multiliteracy. I think you are walking the talk and talking the talk, and I think that's very important, and I think that speaks volumes to it. So thank you again. So research experience and my research interests are along a consistent trajectory, and I'm focusing specifically on instruction for English learners to inform curriculum and instructional decisions for the 21st century classroom. So the study that was published in the Tapestry Journal is in fact part of a larger study on technology use in 3 middle school ESL classrooms. I've looked at 3 ESL language arts classrooms in a middle school and how the available technology is used in there. And the participants in the study were 3 ESL teachers and 4 focus students who represented a range of language proficiency levels and countries of origin. So in terms of hearing about the call for papers, I heard it from a friend, and I decided that Tapestry is a good avenue to share my research with a larger audience and in the same time meet other researchers who are interested in multiliteracy as I am.
Wonderful, Elena. I think what we liked the most about your piece, or what I enjoyed when I read your piece, was the fact that you talked about using multiliteracies in the middle school classroom. Often it is that classroom that gets neglected, that hardly anyone talks about. So I guess my question is a little bit twofold. Why do you believe it's important to provide English language learners, especially middle school students, with opportunities to use digital text in the classroom? So maybe generally why English language journals in general, and then why specifically focus on middle school English language learners?
Okay, so maybe this should start off with some personal experience. So I was myself an English as a second language teacher at middle school, and that is where my life is and where my heart goes. So this study kind of was a continuation of my work with middle schoolers who we know they are this special age group. So it was just a continuation of my passion for English learners and for middle school. And I myself, I am a bilingual, so relate to those students in terms of how long it takes to learn a language and being not all the time confident about your language skills. So that is kind of from a personal standpoint. In terms of my studies, I just wanted to make sure that I go over some of the limitations and caveats that I have. And I should say that for my study, I focus only on 3 ESL language art classrooms, and as I said, I had classroom observations. I did student and teacher interviews, and I collected classroom samples. I did not look at other content areas. I looked just at language arts. The teacher was also teaching sheltered classrooms such as sheltered math or sheltered civics. And I observed only during the fall semester, and I was about for 1 week at a time in each of the 3 classes. In addition, so taking this into account, I want to make sure that what I found, I do not overgeneralize to a large population. And from my data collection and from what I found, the 3 ESL teachers were focusing on developing English learners' language learning and language arts content for the grade level they are teaching. So that being said, for my study, I looked at how English learners are developing multiliteracy, and I used a definition of PALS for what is multiliteracy. It includes critical literacy, electronic literacy, and social cultural literacy. And critical literacy is the ability to assess and think critically. Electronic literacy is the ability to navigate and use technology. And social cultural literacy is the ability to interact and communicate in the context of new digital technology. So part of your question, Martha, was why multiliteracy? So we live in the 21st century, and technology surrounds us, and digital texts are all around us. And as teachers of English learners, we need to develop not only but we also need to make them successful global citizens of the 21st century, and that includes developing multiliteracy skills.
Wonderful, wonderful. I also, we talk about the benefits, but can you tell us a little bit about the challenges that you see in making this happen in the classroom? Do we see any challenges in embedding, infusing multiliteracies in the classroom where English language learners are working in?
Sure. So in terms of challenges, we as teachers, we need to be aware of what multiliteracy is specifically, and how can we teach it. We need to be aware of the objective of our course or of our class, and how can we teach multiliteracy, and how can we make ELLs multiliterate for the 21st century. So one of the skills needed to be a good citizen, as I said, is to be multiliterate and possess skills related to electronic, critical, and social literacy. So for example, the teachers in my study indicated that the focus of their classes were to help English learners learn the language and be successful on the language proficiency test. Technology was available and present in the classroom and used on a regular basis to support their students' learning. However, not all aspects of multiliteracy were addressed, and the challenges that the teachers in my study identified specifically were the lack of planning time available, the lack of support, such as coaches coming in and share or demonstrate how to use technology to teach. Also, several incidents of technology malfunctions that I've noticed and that the teachers mentioned too. And also, the technology was available, but they still need to share some of it. That was also a detriment. So I think the teachers in this study had the best intentions to use technology, but there were several challenges that they faced. So that's what I found as being some of the challenges that teachers and we as teachers can have.
I agree. I mean, that's one of the things is when we bring technology into our classroom, when we bring these literacies into teaching and learning spaces, we have opportunities, through intentional use of these literacies to support students. There's also challenges. We talk about access, we talk about time. One of the things that we frequently ignore is that, the teachers need time. They need time to figure out what all these things do. I mean, you said earlier, walking the walk and talking the talk. We have Tapestry the Journal, but then Martha and I made the decision to use, this medium right here to interact and have dialogue and put that dialogue openly available online. And it for many of us, this is the first time we've ever done it. And we're on the bleeding edge, so we're trying to, we need time to figure this out. So one of our last question is, you know, we're in thinking about it, oftentimes with multiliteracies or digital literacy or web literacy, we look at this this dichotomy. We look at this split between in school and out of school. We look at what students are doing in school for instruction. We talk about, you know, what the teacher is doing, what they do in the classroom spaces, and then we talk about their out of school literacy practices and how, you know, in multiliteracies, but then also just literacy and technology in general, sometimes there's a disconnect between those out of school literate practices and what's happening in school. That being said, what opportunities do we have for using technology in those spaces? What opportunities do we have to possibly, you know, maybe intentionally connect what's happening out of school with the in-school practices or vice versa?
So starting from where you left, Jan, I think it is important to find out what our English learners bring to class and what their experience with technology or digital tools and multiliteracy is. And we can start from there. So students can share how they use technology in an authentic way outside the classroom, and thus they can bring their knowledge in the classroom and acknowledge them as experts. So for example, the students in this study, the focus students in this study, were familiar with social networking sites they used to communicate with families, such as Facebook or Skype, and various instructional websites they use for other content areas, such as math. So they were familiar and they were using that outside of school. The students could do research and find needed information on the web, and that's something that they could do both inside and outside. They were not very aware of how to identify reliable information, and that is something that the teachers noticed and shared with me. And I think that being able to find reliable information online and being able to read digital text and being able to use social networking sites in a responsible way and teach those adolescents to use, you know, social networking sites in a responsible ways. These are all skills for the global citizen of the 20th century. So research suggests that technology indeed has the potential to help English learners learn the language and the content they need to learn. And as you guys suggested, technology and digital tools have the potential to act as supports and scaffolds for English learners. However, technology and digital tools are just a means to an end. We still need to use good instructional strategies and assist the students in developing multiliteracy.
Very cool. One last question, and this was not on our list, so I apologize, but it made me think about it when you first started talking about what students bring into the classroom, you know, and so I know that, you know, and we talked about it in the last interview, you know, in literacy, in language, there is a lot of social-cultural elements. You know, we have a lot of baggage that we bring either from our culture, from our family, from our neighborhoods, whatever it might be. So we're talking about what students bring into the classroom. You know, through the use of digital tools, we might be able to accelerate, enhance that. Do we lose anything? Do we lose anything by having students, and this might be a more like theoretical or philosophical question, do we lose anything when students are bringing their culture, what makes them outside, you know, school, who they are, and their family and their neighborhood? Do we lose anything when they bring that into school using digital tools?
That's a question, and it makes me think of funds of knowledge. So funds of knowledge is that knowledge that our ELs bring into the classroom that is representative of who they are and their language and their culture. So I'm thinking the same with digital technology and the same with using digital tools outside of classroom, bringing that in and tapping into it and starting from where they are and making your assignments authentic is a nice way to acknowledge who they are. And there is a tendency all the time English learners from a deficit perspective. What are the things that they don't know? They don't know the language yet. We need to teach them this. But if they bring in the classroom what they are already doing, we tap into that knowledge and acknowledge and look at them not from a deficit model, but more from an additive model. And this reminds me of the discussion that we had, I think, with Kathy Webb, the presentation that we had at Association for Teacher Education Colleges. I think I'm not sure I got the title right of the conference, but one thing that she mentioned was we sometimes assume that our English learners do not have access to technology, and we just don't ask them to do certain assignments that integrate technology because we don't want to make them feel that you know, they don't have that technology, so they cannot participate. And from her study, she said that actually the students have more access to technology and more, you know, multiliteracy skills than we think. So that was something that made me think about the students that I studied in this for this article, and then maybe even go back and look closely. Is there indeed a digital gap, or is it just our perception of how we see these students from a deficit model, not only from their language learning, but also from the resources that they have?
Wonderful, Elena. It's been wonderful to hear your piece come to life by you talking and expanding on what you already wrote on the manuscript that you submitted and that was published on the Tapestry Journal. It's been great to hear about the funds of knowledge that English language learners bring to the table and how we need to value that, not only in terms of cultural funds of knowledge, but also the technological aspect that they will bring to the classroom. So we want to remind everyone that Elena has talked about her piece, but her complete piece has been published online on the Tapestry Journal. The Tapestry Journal is a journal dedicated for scholars and practitioners who work with English language learners. And this particular issue was dedicated for the digital literacies. And Elena's piece is available online. It's an open source journal. So if you do a Google search, you can find the Tapestry Journal and read Elena's entire piece.
Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Elena, any last words?
I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my work, and to all the also to all the authors. We are all passionate about our work, and we're always eager to share. And thank you again for putting this theme issue together and for promoting it in various ways. It was very nice meeting you both, you know, on paper and online, as well as the other authors. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's been a pleasure talking with you guys.
Thank you very much. All right, so as Martha said, you know, go online, find the piece, and as Elena said, we're talking with a group of passionate researchers. You have their work, you have their videos, you have their words. You know, for most of them, they've said, here's our contact information. Get in touch with us, and let's have dialogue about what we've discussed, and let's continue the discussion. So with that being said, we'll sign off now.